Welcome to the Business of Apparel podcast. This is the place to learn how to start and scale your own apparel brand and fill it with loyal customers for years to come. I'm your host, Rachel Erickson, owner and CEO of Unmarked Street, and I can't wait to share this episode with you. Welcome back to the Business of Apparel podcast. Today I have a really special guest with me. Megan Krajco and I met over a decade ago on LinkedIn. Isn't that crazy? We had a position open, I think, at Pearl Zumi at the time, and Megan reached out to me and we started chatting on LinkedIn and have kind of stayed connected ever since. And like recently we reconnected quite a bit and we've been kind of working together on some different things. And it's just been such a pleasure to get to know her. And I think today is going to be a really great example for you to understand what it looks like to have a really successful career in the apparel industry, because Megan has 100% had that. Well, welcome to the podcast, Megan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to just jump in and tell us a little bit about your background in the apparel industry, kind of how you got started, and maybe like throw in a little bit of advice there for someone who's kind of getting started in their career.
Sure. Yeah. I don't even know. I'm like just under 20 years in the industry now, which feels crazy to say. But yeah, I got into a design position right out of school. I went to school for fashion design. I was really encouraged by a high school teacher to go in that route. So props to her for pushing me in that direction too. But yeah, I got an internship right out of college, ended up getting a job offer from that internship. And so I was at my first company, Garnet Hill, for 5 years, and then moved my family over to Colorado just for some personal reasons. Quickly got into a contractor job there with Guyam, which was great to get into, the active side of the industry that's now, become so prevalent in Denver area. So that was great. Probably about the time you and I got connected then.
Yes.
And yeah, just quickly tried to grow my network here. It was one of those things where, we kind of moved on a whim and then didn't really know what the landscape looked like for my kind of job. So I definitely I had some moments where, I felt like maybe I should be looking at a different career path, things like that. But really grateful that I stuck it out because it's taken me a long way. Yeah, our industry is ever changing. So I've had companies that have sold, companies that have gone bankrupt, companies that have been really successful and still are. And so it's been nice to kind of, navigate through a lot of that part of the industry too.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's kind of funny to look back. I mean, my career started the same way, right? Like with internships and then getting a job offer straight out of that internship and feeling like you kind of like hit the jackpot that, that you were somewhere really easily like stepping into a full-time role. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about kind of, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, but kind of your journey as you kind of start in the industry and what it kind of takes, honestly, to be a good enough employee to get to the point where, I mean, you're a design director now, like big time.
Yeah. I feel like I've been like fighting towards this job for the last 10 years too. So yeah, for me, I felt really clear about what I wanted to be doing. And I definitely wanted to stay in design. I think it's really easy to pivot over, I shouldn't say easy. It's product development and technical design have very different skill sets, but it felt easy for me to be like, oh, maybe design isn't for me, so I felt like really holding true to what I believed that was my strength in the industry was a great way to kind of push me in that direction. So I think, ways to look at, starting out in the industry, we toss around the word like entrepreneur. I'm very much a self-starter when it comes to my career and how, I approach receiving challenges and taking things on, and really never had a manager, ironically, that really like guided me. I've had really great people in my career, but no one that really kind of was about to lay out a really clear career ladder for me. So I feel like that alone kind of led me in this direction where I was like, if I want to be a design director someday and I see what it looks like it could take, this is what I need to do. And so I reach out to people like you, reach out to people, in my alumni network, just really trying to keep myself connected, and then connected, to the industry too, going to trade shows where, wherever I could, and just really kind of taking in as much knowledge as I possibly could. I had the fortune of being a part of pretty small brands too, small, like mid-sized brands. And I think that really helped a lot too, because I was able to learn a lot of different areas, learn about marketing, learn about inventory, learn about, merchandising, and had people who were willing to, take a little bit of time with me to lean in those areas too.
Yeah.
Where at sometimes, at bigger companies, you get pretty hyper focused to exactly what you're doing too. So I think that was really beneficial for me. The self-learning kind of like hustle that I was able to offer, and then being a part of these kind of smaller brands that were able to let me lean in where I kind of wanted to lean in. So
yeah, I think that's super important to understand, is like, while it can be a lot harder to work at these like smaller companies that maybe don't have all their shit figured out or something like that, it does give you a lot more opportunity sometimes, because at the big brands, you're kind of like this teeny little cog in this giant wheel. You kind of get put into this spot, and yeah, there's opportunity for growth and change and all of that kind of stuff, but it's hard to wear multiple hats, I think, at once. Whereas in a small brand, you almost have to kind of figure that out. I'd love to ask you, you mentioned, you've kind of been working toward this design director role for 10 years. And I think it's really interesting. I just went and spoke to the CSU internship class for their fashion design program, which was really, really interesting. And we talked a lot about how like the beginning of your career feels like it goes pretty fast. Like you have that internship, then you're an assistant, then you're an associate really fast. But you get to this point in your career where it takes a really long time then to kind of make those next big steps. And I'd love to ask you if you have any like good stories about maybe how you overcame some sort of situation. Like in my career, I feel like there were a lot of people who really thought I was too ambitious, because I was a self-starter too, right? And I was always trying to learn new things or be that entrepreneur that you talked about. And I feel like there were always some times where I had setbacks, or people kind of thinking that maybe I had the wrong attitude. And I'd love for you to speak a little bit on if you had any experiences like that, and maybe how you worked through them, not just as a leader in the industry, but also as a woman in the industry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I think the first time, I mean, as one example that I really tried to kind of like put myself out there, I had, reached out to my boss, who was the president at the time. Again, smaller companies, so smaller steps up. But, and she had come back to me saying, I appreciate your drive here. I think it's really inspirational. I don't think that your skill set is quite there yet, but here's kind of like a list of like what you'd need to, develop skills in. And so we actually created a development plan together, and she really empowered me to lean in areas where I didn't realize I didn't have a skill set to level up into leadership. And so, I think putting yourself out there and saying like, hey, this is a goal of mine, and it's really important to me. And hopefully you have a manager that is willing to lead you in that direction. And I always like to approach it with employees that I work with now and saying like, we may not have this role here, but if that is where you want to aim, let's aim in that direction. And that really came from that experience. I have also had people tell me to just go sit back in my seat and do as I'm told. So I've been on both ends of it. So, really great leaders that are willing to guide you, even if maybe it's not their expertise. That president that I was talking about is a finance expert. So quite different than a very creative role. Yeah. Again, equally helpful in how to, manage a team. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just feeling, you got to take ego out of it. It's not always about you, and it's about what the company and the business needs. And at the one where I said I was really shot down and told to do as I was told, I saw a lot of opportunity there. And I think that that's a strength of mine. I think I see those opportunities and can kind of pave that path out. And so I tried to do that with them. And I think it could have maybe scared them a little bit, but also maybe that wasn't the direction they were wanting to move into, and that's fine. So I think for me, just getting rid of like the ego and saying like, maybe this job isn't for me then, because I have more to offer. And that was a short-lived job for me too.
But that kind of positive attitude in anything really is going to help you, I think, achieve your goals and figure out how to like, today might have sucked, but tomorrow's a new day and let's figure out what's next.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I've recognized too that challenge is really important to me. And so if I get complacent in a job, I kind of start to get an itch and I'm like, well, what can I do next? And so if I'm not learning or I'm not being challenged in some way, that's always kind of a red flag for me to kind of figure something out, whether it's within that job or not.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're definitely like a really good example of like seeking out different ways of learning. And I've always kind of seen you out and about, like asking a ton of different questions and networking a lot. And we've been on different calls at different times just to like pick each other's brains. And I think that's so valuable. I don't know if enough people are doing that, but I just want to say that's available to you if you put yourself out there.
Yeah. And what I love about the way you've built your business too, it's about, sharing like the company, across companies, even it's not necessarily like we're all giving up trade secrets. It's like,
right.
Hey, have you ever never had a PO process, in your company? Help me with this. And I've had colleagues help out, and so I think it's things like that. Prana's been a pretty cool example of that too, with the responsible packaging movement that they've laid out. But yeah, the sharing component is just so important. We don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time. And that leaves space for doing what we love is the creative side. So yeah.
Yeah. So speak about that a little bit. Tell us what a design director does. Tell us a little bit about your job, your day in and out.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm still learning a little bit myself.
Fair.
I'm at a new company right now that's only about 4 years old, so relatively young. We have a whole new team that's all being onboarded really at the same time this year.
Wow.
So yeah, so we're all kind of juggling a lot of different roles right now, but in this sense of my role as a design director, it was actually kind of brought up to me the other day because I had an employee ask that, well, what are you going to do when we get all these processes set up? And I was like, let me tell you. But yeah, I think a design director is a role that really helps to create synthesis in the product itself, whether that be through certain design details or fit. But one thing that I really appreciated about my time at Pact is we were able to really lean into this idea of like one mindset, whether you have, 2 designers, 6 designers, 20 designers, one mindset, one product, and kind of creating what that kind of like iconic look for the brand can look like. I think just going back to like creating like that synthesis, creating like that one point of view for the team. And then, I think too, offering that mentorship and coaching to bring up this like next generation of designers, product developers, technicians too, I think is really important as well for this particular role. We do you can do a lot of storytelling, right, at certain brands. And then there's other brands that it's really about features and benefits and performance and function. And for me, it's really just, it's about taking the brand's values and deciphering that through product and making sure that shines, and it shines through every product, and it creates that cohesion without it all kind of looking the same.
Yeah, I love that. I think we've said a couple different times, like when we're talking to different clients, we try to ask them like, what about your product is telling the world without a logo or without like some sort of big splashy name on your apparel? Like, this is my apparel. This is what it stands for. This is what it looks like. You can eye it like when someone's walking down the street. And so I think that like kind of having someone like you heading something like that up is just so special for a brand. So I know that PACA is in for like a really, really great ride going from here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited too, because it's so fresh that we have this opportunity to lay out that foundation for the brand. And I was just actually talking to a college student who I've been mentoring, and she had said, something along the lines of, what is like your advice, like kind of going into the industry. And I said, I think one thing that's so cool about startups is that you can do a lot of things, but also like walking into that fresh out of school would be so scary. I feel like I'm at such a perfect point in my career where I've seen enough to know what I feel like is the right way to move forward, and to be a part of a brand that's letting me pave that out and like really kind of test my theory feels so empowering right now.
That's so amazing. I think you've also taken a lot of extra time to learn things outside of the design realm so that you bring that additional experience, and it allows you to be a really good teammate and a good mentor and a good manager. And so I just want to kind of mention, like, maybe you can speak a little bit about this too, but I mean, you mentioned earlier, you guys are putting a new PO process in place. And I don't know a ton of design directors who would be able to step into that room and have, a lot of great advice there, but you, I'm sure, do, because you've taken the time to learn a lot of that. And so maybe if you can speak just a little bit too, to like expanding your role outside of just, where obviously you want to stay where you love because that's how you're going to perform best, but what it looks like to step outside of that and how that helps.
Yeah, I think it's so critical. And I'm so grateful for my experience at Garnet Hill for really paving this path for me. They offered a lot of job shadowing experiences.
Oh,
and
cool.
So I was able to, at that time, job shadow with inventory and demand planning. What designer cares about that? But it was really cool because anybody that you choose to cross-functionally work with or shadow with or anything like that, product touches their hands at different parts of the life cycle. And so what you do will always affect somebody else. And that experience alone taught me that, like, hey, when you guys make name changes and color changes so far down the road, here's all the docs I have to update,
Yep.
So just even learning little things like that, and then all the way, up until my experience today, one of the reasons that I really started leaning in with working with you around like line planning and SKU rationalization, things like that, is because the product that I make, my tie in product development and creation ties directly to merchandising.
Yes.
And then directly to, inventory and buying. And so understanding their point of view and how that end of the system worked, I feel like made me a better designer in terms of like the concept process. I'm not necessarily a pie in the sky kind of designer. I don't always get my head in the clouds. I think it's great to be able to like let yourself go into that flow state and really like bring, some unique ideas to the table. But having a grounding in even just as a designer, how product gets made.
Yes.
You're going to be a better designer knowing how it gets produced in the long run, knowing how stitches work, knowing how the machines work, order of operations even, not to let any of like the logistics of all of it damper creativity, of course, but having that understanding, I think, just makes you smarter in your designs and allows you then to, really be more creative because functionally how things are going to be put together and all the hands that it's going to go through.
I find that the best designers I've ever worked with in my career take a little bit of time to learn those things, like order of operations and sewing when it gets to the factory, or what does construction look like, or what are all the thread types, so that I know like what's best to use in what scenario. And so I think kudos to you for really stepping outside of your design box and really learning all of those different things. I mean, demand planning, like that's such an interesting, like, secondary thing to go learn because it's so far outside, but it's also, to your point, it helps you realize how, just like you said, I mean, I'm just repeating basically what you said, but just how like the decisions that you make, how it impacts everybody down the line. And it just helps you be such a good manager. And it's no wonder you've gotten this new role as a design director. Like, congratulations to you. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And I'm by no means like an expert demand planner. Like, there's no...
Yeah, but you know a little bit, and that's more than most. So
I do think that like level-headed understanding, a foundational understanding of it all is so critical. So not my world. Math is not my favorite thing, but I'm leaning into the learning. So
that's amazing. So what is coming up next for you? You feeling like you're just diving into this new role? Anything fun for PACA coming up that you want to share?
Yeah. Pack has been a lot of fun. We're definitely in a scramble mode right now, getting caught up, also assimilating and learning the line, learning each other. So it's definitely some growing pains right now, but growing pains in a really positive way. Our GM has put together a really amazing team. And it's a team that, is really driven around the same values that the brand holds too. And is really, I think while we are all working very hard right now to get the product out the door, get, orders up, things like that, we all see a future and like the light is shining through. It's here and it's coming. And the fact that, we're able to kind of all lay out these processes, like we were saying, I feel like we're all at the same kind of point in our careers too, and all kind of the same age of sorts too, where we're able to put in the best of practices to build this brand. And so right now we're still working on some 2025 product. Keeps my heart pounding a little bit. We have really great factory partners. It's a really beautiful brand. We were able to go down to Peru too to meet the Quechua weavers that
amazing.
A lot of the trims that we put into our product too. Great factory partners, just really, really beautiful people who are just so excited to see what this brand can do. And we've got some really cool fabric innovations coming through. I think that's kind of been the most exciting part to lean into right now, because in my career thus far, I haven't done a ton of material innovation or really a lot of material work. It's been a lot of material sourcing, right? And so, truly developing what we want has been so challenging and yet inspiring too. And so I find myself, like, instead of reading a mystery book or something on the weekends, I'm like just reading about materials and fibers. And so it's really, it just goes to show how exciting this brand is. And just, everyone around us right now is just so excited to learn and dig in. And so excited to get into 2026 for sure. We've got a couple months before we kick that off. It'll be nice to get on a calendar and get everybody kind of, tracking in these new processes together too. So,
yeah. Well, you're not alone. We're doing the same thing. We're trying to push a lot of our clients to finish up 2025 so that we can get into 26 here soon. And for what it's worth for the audience, if you're really looking at like a really robust calendar, we're probably looking at kicking off initial design phases. Like, you want your design team to start thinking and brainstorming and getting creative and hand sketching and stuff like that, probably here in the next couple of weeks, like November. Yeah. So, well, kudos to you. I'm so excited for you, Megan. And I'm so just pleased that you've been a part of my world for so long. And I hope it just continues. And congratulations. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an honor. And I'm so grateful for your partnership. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to keep our relationship going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you like this episode, please leave us a review and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Apparel podcast. I would so appreciate hearing your thoughts on the show. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. My biggest desire is to help other apparel professionals understand the nuances of our industry so we can all work toward making better product for a better world. If you would like to connect further, I'd love to invite you to send me a message through my website, thebusinessofapparel.com, where I do weekly trainings through my YouTube video channel, a weekly newsletter, blog articles, and so many more resources to help you start and scale a profitable apparel brand. This podcast is produced by Box 7 Media, who I cannot speak highly enough of. If you're looking to start your own podcast, you can reach out to Jeremy at Box 7 Media on LinkedIn anytime.